Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you all to the annual Shepherdstown Town Hall meeting. Today we're going to talk about childhood obesity. First I'd like to introduce myself. My name is William O'Neill. I'm a concerned father and I help out with the board here. This is Josh. He is one of the town councilmen also. He sits with me on the board. Jake, you are one of our PE teacher at Shepherdstown Elementary School. We have
I'm Alex, and I am a valedictorian over in Jefferson High School.
And I'm Mary Kinney. I'm the head dietitian and nutritionist for our area.
Now, we're brought here today to discuss a topic that has overwhelmed most of us in Shepherdstown, which is why is childhood obesity so prevalent in American society? Obviously, we've seen a huge impact on childhood obesity over the years. So today we come to discuss it to talk about possible solutions, why it's happening, what we can do to prevent it happening more. What are the causes of it? I want to first start by saying exactly what is childhood obesity. I'm going to turn it over to Josh to talk more about it, more of the town area.
Well, they have Merriam-Webster. They define childhood right off the bat as the time from birth to adolescence. And to me, adolescence is when a child reaches his full, whenever he stops growing, whenever their body is the full size that they're going to be. It's not necessarily an age range for myself, but it's whenever their body has finished with whatever changes they're going to be to become an adult.
I would say that in my opinion, it goes until they're able to purchase their own meals when they make informed decisions on their own.
I agree part of that. I mean, if you can smoke and drink, well, you're not a minor, then you're not a child. Or if you are not a minor, then you're an adult. So I consider birth to 18 to be a child or child.
I personally consider that, yes, the end range is correct, but I would suggest that the beginning would be about at the age of 3 when you're finishing your toddler stage, when you're finally beginning to go into schools and stuff, so that you're not exactly as, like, you're more free as a 3-year-old than you are than one who's a baby.
I know after doing some research, I've seen J.J. Riley, who's a writer for the Obesity Reviews, article online that talks primarily about childhood obesity. He wrote that childhood lasts from birth to 18. However, many other reviews have talked about childhood lasting, like he had said, from adolescence. Now, the thing with adolescence is that many people can become full figures when they're 15 and they become 18, so it's more harder to determine. Childhood is more characterized by individual than by a general perspective. Now, let's talk about obesity. What do we think about obesity? I know you have a formula for obesity.
I do. The formulas for obesity to find out if you are considered in the obese range is if your BMI is over the number 25. And you calculate your BMI by dividing your body weight by your height squared. And if you use inches and pounds for your height and weight, you multiply that by 703, and that will give you your BMI. And if your BMI is over 25, you are considered obese.
And BMI, that is body mass index, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And it's not the best way to calculate, because if you do a skin pinch test, it's a little more accurate.
Yes.
Since muscle weighs more than fat.
I read on obesityaction.org that obesity actually is classified as having a BMI of 30 or greater.
That's what I
That's what I read, but I don't consider someone who, if you have a BMI of 30 or greater, but you're all muscle, then I don't consider you to be an unhealthy obese person. I consider an unhealthy obese person who has an excess of fat. That's what I think obesity is.
One of the things prevalent also in today's society is that characterized by weight, as he had said, muscle weighs more than fat does. A lot of people who weigh 200 could be solid rock, solid shredded muscle, but they're considered overweight, when in fact they could run out someone who's 150 of just complete fat. So there's a lot of controversy that goes into it, but again, it's measured by BMI. So the pure definition of obesity is, I want to say what the pure definition is.
Is the obesity is the when a person is of a grossly excessive weight that is beyond muscle and just it is beyond what the normal average weight of a child should be.
Yeah, I think that most of the time you can just look at somebody and kind of tell if they're obese, because with any type of formula, there's always going to be people that aren't going to fit that. Their number for whether it be 25 or 30 for what's considered obese, they're going to fall above that. But if you look at them, they could be built, like you or me, to where you're like, no, there's no way they're obese. But so I think it depends from child to child or person to person on whether or not they're considered obese. You just kind of got to look at them and you can tell if they're approaching that range of where they might be obese.
And to add on to that, many people ask, how can you look at someone to see if they are obese? In men, the most common way to look at a man to see if he is obese is by the stomach. That's where most of the fat's stored in men. And in women, it goes right down to the thighs. So if you see a man who has more of a rounder stomach, you can assume that he'd be more obese. Getting down to that, let's talk about the problem today. And as we all know, like I said earlier, childhood obesity is a huge problem today. If you look back over the years, back in the 50s, there wasn't much of a problem with childhood obesity. It was still prevalent, but it wasn't as prevalent as it is today. Now, what do you guys believe is the underlying cause, problem, or factors that go into the childhood obesity epidemic today in 2014?
I think that there's 2 points for why children, the obesity level keeps rising or is not being cut back as much as we would hope it would be. And I think it's just flat out that children aren't getting as much exercise, they're not getting out and doing stuff, whether it be outside or just playing with each other. They're just sitting in front of TVs or playing with iPads or playing video games or sitting in front of computers. They're not getting enough exercise for themselves. And that a lot of parents work a lot of hours, so you don't get the same type of nutrition that you used to get, where if you had a stay-at-home mom, they prepare lunch for you, breakfast for you, dinner for you. You'd have 3 meals prepared by somebody, and you had an easier time to eat right, eat healthy. Whereas now, if mom and dad both work till 6 or 7 at night, you have your children are just making microwave meals, or they're eating macaroni and cheese or candy or whatever they want because there's nobody else at home with them.
I come at it from a food choices kind of angle, where the nutrition's not really in the food anymore. Our a society on the go, so if we go through the drive-through, our portions aren't right, and it's not nutrient-dense food. It's all starches, all fats.
I can kind of relate to that. Being a PE teacher at my school, I see the students eating what is called beef and poultry, but I know it's held to lesser standards than what McDonald's and Burger King are served. So I feel like, if you're not going to eat yourself, you shouldn't serve it to anybody else. And I know that many schools are saying that they don't even provide free drinking water anymore, so that's just sad, and I don't know what to think about that.
I think you should possibly ask yourself about why kids want junk food. Yes, it is very widely available. It is also very sugary, so it gives them a lot of energy. And it's the main commercial that you always find on television. You very rarely see any health foods these days as a commercial. Now you may occasionally see like a pistachios commercial, a banana commercial, an orange commercial, but that's nothing compared to as to what it is now with cereals, with candies, with chocolate bars, and so much of that. So usually we're just almost force-feeding kids almost all the time about what foods they can see and what looks great compared to vegetables and fruits.
Absolutely. You look at the Nickelodeon shows with the commercials they come on, you see all those sugary cereals, the Lucky Charms, Fruity Pebbles, and that's strategically geared towards the children. So they're like, oh, I want those Lucky Charms, I want those Fruit Loops.
They have SpongeBob on the box.
Exactly.
And to add on to that, as a parent, I do my part in limiting children how much they can eat, but according to Spring Dawson, she's a writer from the Journal of Prevention and Intervention in the Community. She focuses a lot of her writing on talking about parenting techniques, how to parent and govern your child the proper way, to make sure he's not raised correctly, but raised to basically prevent child obesity. In her article, she had written about how parents aren't knowledgeable enough of what their children are eating. When they go out to grocery stores, they pick up, oh, I saw this on TV, like you said, it must be good. They never read the actual labels on the back of it. They just say, oh, this is so well known, this is what they're going to eat. I guess it's popular. It's trusted. And the advertisements she writes about are so convincing, and they get brainwashed in your head. For example, like you had said, the Nickelodeon TV shows. If you have a child who's 8 years old, he might be watching Nickelodeon a lot. It's typical today. But you have the Tricks commercials a lot, or the Lucky Charms commercial. Let's talk about that. The little leprechaun. Every child in America knows what a little leprechaun is. If they ever go to the grocery store with their parent, their mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, and they see the little leprechaun run around on the cereal box, that's gonna be the first thing they recognize. Not for the actual cereal itself, but for the image. They can say, oh, I have this, I eat this every
It's more
morning.
fun for them.
Colorful.
I think it's also, when it comes down to, especially with the way the economy is over the last, we'll say, 10 years, it's actually cheaper to feed your family junky food that's going to end up making them gain weight and it's not healthy for you than it is for you to go out and try to eat healthy by buying the fruits and the vegetables and stuff like that at the grocery store. And a lot of families just can't afford to eat as healthy as they should be because the economy is just not as well off as it used to be, and they just I feel that also has to do with the rising trend that we have. So we have, it says here that we have our chart with the obesity rates from 1971 to the present, and if you look, it's just, I mean, it's almost a steady rise. For the first 8 years, it didn't really rise at all, but since about 1980, it just continuously seems to rise, and now we're up to about 18 to 20% of the children out there are obese, and I think some of it has to do with the inability to effectively feed your family healthy food.
Absolutely, and location and time goes along with that. If you're in a neighborhood and there's no grocery store or supermarket around, it's easier to go to McDonald's, which is a block away, or Burger King. You see a lot of those within a very small radius.
And they come with toys.
Exactly. And
Yeah, now my question for everyone here, are our children getting enough exercise? Because when I was growing up back in the 80s, we were running around all the time playing in the neighborhood. We had gym class every day, recess every day. After school, we run around. If you didn't play a sport, we didn't go home. We didn't have the TV, all the stations. We didn't have a PlayStation, we didn't have an Xbox. We go outside and play with our neighbors, etc. Our children, my question, gym teacher, our children in school, are they still participating in gym as frequently as we were back in elementary school?
that's a good question, and they're really not. They're required to take one term of a gym class and one term of a health class. And to me, that's just unacceptable. I mean, most of the time I see students there, taking their freshman class there, and then I don't see them at all the rest of their time in high school. That's it. And that's just unacceptable in my opinion. And they need to do something about that.
I know that the website heart.org put out a article with tips and tricks for parents and caretakers that either think that their child might be becoming obese or already are obese, and they're saying that every kid should have 60 minutes every day of moderate intensity exercise, whether it be just running outside playing or whatever, whether they know they're exercising or not. They should have at least 60 minutes a day, and I guarantee that the majority, if you're looking at anybody who would be classified as an obese child, is not getting 60 minutes a day by any stretch.
But if you also consider, if you look into schools, you notice that in elementary schools that playgrounds have been demolished more and more as each year goes by. I mean, recess has been basically taken out of elementary schools, causing kids to not really get the exercise that they can during the day. And so they get riled up in schools and stuff, and so that causes even more of a problem in the means of They don't get more chances to play around, they don't get a chance to exercise, they don't get a chance to socialize. It's not exactly the best option. I know that it's a financial problem, but still, there has to be another solution as to taking out playgrounds.
Well, I think that the majority of the reasons are taking the playgrounds out is because the population is, in a lot of areas, has grown so much that they have no place left to put the kids. They need more classrooms, they need more space, so they're building buildings. Like I know at my high school and middle school in Martinsburg, both of them have trailers just kind of parked all over the place because they just don't have the classroom space for these kids anymore. So in order to put these trailers somewhere, they do have to use what school ground they already have, and usually the playground goes first. But I would think if you have gym a couple times a week at least throughout your entire school career, K through 12 every semester, then that would make it easier to get your exercise every day because you'd be in gym class.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, yes, that is true. You do get exercise from gym, but there's also a good ratio of kids who enjoy gym and those who don't enjoy gym because of the anxiety that builds. I mean, there's always that one kid that's always going to be over here on the sideline, not really wanting to participate. Because there's always a certain requirement when it comes to each gym class. And so they don't get the same enjoyment as to those kids who get to go on the playground where they get to do whatever they please.
Have fun, but to incorporate fun into our exercise.
I think it's one of the main problems also in gym classes today. Because back in the 80s when I was in high school, we had a standard. It was called the Presidential Fitness Challenge, where if you ran a mile in this time, you got the number one, like rank 1, that's presidential, and you got an A. If you ran in this time, you got a rank number 2, that was national, you got a B. Anything under was 3, 4, or 5, then you got a C, D, or F, which really, it challenged us, which if you weren't an athlete, you didn't do very well, you didn't get a good grade. And as you had said, there is an anxiety to that. Because say someone who isn't a good runner at all has to run that to get past the class. And I remember for the 1 mile, we had to run that for an 18-year-old male. My senior year, we had to run it in 6 minutes and 30 seconds. And that's a very fast pace compared to many people. And there were only a handful of people who could get under 7 minutes. Everyone else got a C, D, or F, which personally is unacceptable for me. Although it does challenge us, it should not be focused more on the gym and more as an extracurricular to it. If you wanted to go for it, go ahead. But as you had said, there should be that portion of fun involved in it. So now, we've analyzed the problem here. We said there's not a recess to have fun. Gym classes are not having fun, and there aren't many gym classes either. Children are eating a bit too much than they should have. Their parents are not focusing on what they're feeding their children. They're just doing whatever the advertisements show. And some parents aren't being parents. They're letting their children do whatever they want to at too young of an age. Although they may be growing up, they still have some sort of guidance to lead them. Because I actually did before I moved to Solution. One of the research I did from Wendy Robertson, who she writes for childhood treatment for childhood obesity, basically a site for many nurses post on it. She writes more of the psychological effect on it. When children at a young age, starting at age 9, start looking after their parents more often, and if they see that their parents are more obese, as in they don't work out, they eat this, they eat that, they shouldn't be eating this, they don't take care of themselves, the children end up following on habits. From personal experience, I can relate this not to just eating. However, my dad does real estate, and I've always wanted to do real estate, and I got into it in middle school. So it is true in my opinion. But when children see their parents who work out, go to the gym, or coach sports, for example, coach like the YMCA sports, they follow in that path and they want to be somewhat like them. Anyway, we've analyzed the problem. Let's move on to finding the criteria for this solution. Let's get some ideas out in the air. How can we fix the solution of childhood obesity?
Well, I say that, as we have mentioned before, that it's just the increase of fun that will really help build more activity for children. I mean, like, there's so much requirement to do a certain activity, but what tells you that they want to do that activity? The more that they don't want to do it, the more they will resist wanting to do it, and so that causes them to not get the exercise that they need.
So it needs to be enjoyable for it to be a good solution.
Exactly.
I think for some kids, it's, no matter what you suggest, it's not gonna be enjoyable. I think you almost have to trick them into thinking, they're having fun while they're exercising, just whatever you have to do, but, I think it needs to be like easily implemented throughout the whole community, something that, everybody can do, whether it's together or separately, like the more programs that we could have, stuff like that. But, I think you just almost need to trick the children into exercising under the disguise of doing something fun.
And I can add on to that, I know the famous saying, quote goes, slow and steady wins the race. A lot of people, from what I've seen, a bit more of a problem going on, go way too fast. They want to push. They don't want to move over time. They want expectations tomorrow. And my solution to that is, let's go to schools, and let's tell them, same quote, slow and steady wins the race. Let's show them the statistics that, although you go to the gym one day for like 3 hours, you're not going to be
Off the next day.
off the next day, or if you run on the treadmill for 3 hours, you're not going to lose 20 pounds or whatever in that one time. It takes progress. And people don't set their goals reasonable enough. They say, I want to lose 15 pounds by this. They don't set their goals. They have to say more reasonable, I want to lose 1 to 2 pounds a week for a 2-month period. That's how it has to be done. So I say my solution to solving this would be go to the schools, inform them, not just go there and say, hey, we don't eat this, don't eat that, it's not good for you. Because although it's going to be one of those boring conversations, we've all been through them. It's one of those presentations that go, schools pay someone to come in to talk to us. The presentation has to be fun. And I don't want to have a presentation that scares them, that says, this is what's going to happen to you 40 years down the road. But we need to inform them more often. And then after, talk to the school and see if we can get in touch with their parents also. Maybe we can have this event, not just for the children, but for the parents also. Because Spring Dawson, who's also the writer I just said for prevention of child obesity, her solution to solving this was creating a foundation for parenting. It's called Parent Corps, and it teaches parents from parent knowledge about how to be a parent, basically. If we can get 1 or 2 of those Parent Corps employees into the school to talk about it with their parents, that would be very beneficial. So that's my solution.
One of my criteria would be that it has to meet everyone's budget, because if we make unrealistic goals about the quality of food we'll bring into the homes, it's not going to work unless the parents can afford it. And I also think that the food that we serve in the schools, the cooks have to be able to cook it. It can't be something that's too complex or takes too long, because they have to feed a certain amount of people in a certain amount of time.
Absolutely. I believe physical education needs to be required K through 12. I mean, exercise goes along with nutrition. If you don't exercise, it doesn't really matter. But like you said, with the school lunches, I don't think anybody should eat the school lunches. Pack your lunch, bring your lunch, but if you have to buy lunch, then schools need to provide more fresh fruits and vegetables and limit the calories that they put in their lunches. But that doesn't mean that they're going to eat the fruits and vegetables. So we need to teach these kids to eat, to teach them, eating habits early, healthy eating habits early. Because a kid's always going to choose a cookie over a bag of,
An apple.
over an apple, or a bag of chips over a banana or something.
I see what you're saying. Let's move on to another. What
Yeah,
would be your
that's-
solution be?
Well, that was actually a part of my solution, where you should actually try to make a fruit or vegetable more appealing to a child. So saying things like doing a simple, cutting out a piece of watermelon, making it look like a heart, or
Serving
doing,
it with peanut butter.
exactly, doing things that are a touch out of the ordinary, but makes it a little bit more unique, will draw a
More
child's
fun.
attention. Plus the fact if you also added to commercials more and take down some of the junk food commercials, that will help equal it out.
Yeah, I understand. Do you have any possible solution for
Um,
this?
I think that it would start, to me, it starts with educating the parents.
Okay.
Because the child's not gonna, they're not responsible for what they eat, they're not responsible for what their playtime is. To me, if we start with educating the parents on the things that are happening to their children because of what could happen if they were obese or because they are obese, and the parents wanna get involved, they would have to wanna get involved. But if you educate the parents are the ones that can implement the changes at home, which is where your child spends a good portion of their time anyways, at home with their family. So we would need to educate the parents first.
That's great.
Yeah, but if you consider teaching an old dog new tricks, that's really gonna be very difficult
That's
to do.
a great point. Now let's move into a quick potential solution. Let's get two good ones down and vote on one after that. My solution that I've come up with, putting all this together between educating parents, getting schools, not eating meals. The one big idea I see here is that it all revolves around the school, the children, and that's a common place between the parent and the school, and the community and the children's school. So my one solution would be, let's go to the schools. Now, what we're gonna say at the schools would be, educate the children, educate the parents, talk to the school cafeteria, their dining services there, see what they can do, see if there are information, see if we can not require them to write nutrition facts on there. Go to teach more nutrition as in a health class, have a segment that focuses on what does the actual nutrition sheet mean. They read that, but they don't know what that means.
Right.
So let's talk to them about that, and then you wanna add on to that?
Yeah, well, I kind of find a concern with that because I don't really see kids really listening to that kind of thing. They don't really pay attention to a higher authority saying things such as like, you should start reading these nutrition labels, you should start eating these certain foods, you should start doing these activities. It's the thought of authority that will really drive kids away from doing
And
things like
that's
that.
a great point too, and the other solution you can add on also, let's see if we can get a public figure in here, someone that children love. Because that, like she had said, if they listen to a parent, they're like, oh, okay, mom's, dad's just blabbering about whatever again. But if they see someone famous doing it who they like, say someone from like a boy band or something, from Child's boy band or something like that,
Jonas Brothers.
like someone of the
Justin
Jonas
Bieber.
Brothers, say, or see a video of them reading that, like, oh wow, like we can open up with that for the presentation. And they said, oh, Jonas Brothers, they got the idea now. They know what they're talking about. Let's do what they're doing. That's the motto to go with. So we can merge into these two solutions and merge into the best solution. Now, what do you think the best solution would be?
I think that while the fact that the children aren't eating correct or healthy as they should be is a big deal. I think that if you get enough exercise and stuff, and it can kind of combat maybe not eating as well as you should, especially when you're at a younger age. The majority, maybe not all the children, but the majority of their metabolisms are going to be a little bit higher. That stuff doesn't start to slow down until you get older. So if they're getting enough exercise and play, that will help combat the not eating right, especially if you can't get the parents on board, or the children just don't want to do it, or the parents can't buy it, or whatever. Getting the more exercise. So I think focusing on pretty much tricking them into working out without knowing they're doing it. So more programs with more outlets in the community for them, whether it be sports or like parks where they can go run around, or even things that are used to be in style but really aren't anymore. Like you could have like a roller skating rink or something like that. Just something more hidden exercise ways that they're not going to realize they're getting exercise, but they're still doing it.
So let's vote on this solution real quick. Here's my solution proposed. As city council on the board, I say let's go to the school. Let's get the video down. Like Jones' brother, Joe Jones, for example. Educate them. Talk with the school administration about the reading the whole nutritionist, but let's also incorporate like the video. You can go talk to the cafeteria. Incorporate more gym class.
I would like to see the water issue resolved.
Definitely that too.
Free water.
And then after that, let's try as a city councilman, open up more parks, more recs, more leisure to hang out at, open up space,
Have more extracurricular
More
activities after
extracurricular.
school. If you guys remember the jump rope for art, if you guys ever did that.
I didn't do that, that was way back when too.
That's almost like tricking them. You're jumping roping, but you're also having fun doing it.
Okay, so in a broad perspective, we're gonna do all that, so let's focus on